Well, my name is John Johnston Savage. Johnston being my mother's maiden name. I am quite proud of John Johnston Savage because I'm called after my uncle, who died when he was 22 of leukemia. So I'm named after him. And I sign, if I'm signing anything, I sign John J. Savage. That's my full title. I'm known as John. I'm a visitor guide here in the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum. I'm here to tell people about the house, to show people around the house, but I also do storytelling. I'm a traditional storyteller. Fairies, banshees, ghosts, that type of thing that's my forte as far as storytelling goes, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. Champ, basically, it's a very basic food. It's what we call here in Ireland scallion, but generally in the rest of the UK they'd call it spring onion. Now, the way I was taught to do champ, you actually cut off the onion bit, you cut off the bulb, you discard the bulb, and you use the green stalks. Oh, is that right? That's the way I was taught to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Other people will tell me that's wrong, and I will not argue with them. So basically what we have, it would have been a dish which was very easy to make, very cheap and very common. Coming from Ireland, of course, we had lots of potatoes. So it's boiled potatoes, your scallions chopped up. Now, generally they would soften them in some milk, boil them in a little milk, and then add that to the potato with some butter, salt, pepper, seasoning, and mash it. I didn't have a small pot to soften my scallions in milk, so actually what I did, I sauteed them, I fried them a little bit in the pan, a little butter, just to soften them. So it's a dish which I suppose it's now looked upon as a traditional Irish dish, along with Irish stew and an Irish fry or an Irish breakfast, or up here we call it an Ulster fry. It's one thing we're very good at. We're very good at making food which gives ourselves heart attacks. We're very fortunate here in the museum. We have got archived material from old storytellers, old Irish storytellers who have long gone. They've gone to tell stories somewhere else in the sky. But we have archives, we have it recorded, and we have it written down. So we can go to our archive and listen to these old boys telling stories and read what they're saying. Now, the stories will differ. The main thrust of the story will be the same. But of course, if I tell you a story, if I tell you something which happened, or perhaps then if you told me something which happened on your journey here, and it's important perhaps, I will go and maybe tell that to someone else, but I'll put a different slant on it. You know, typically if these older storytellers would have told stories perhaps which related to their living conditions, their townland perhaps, and may say, oh, the following story happened in Killynether, because that was local to them. When I go to tell that, I would say, oh, it happened in Ballyesborough, which is a townland closer to me, just to try and give it a little bit of local connections. So the things change a little bit. There's stories which maybe there's 6 or 7 versions. The main thrust's the same, and that's the beauty of it, because people will then come in and say, I know that story, but I know it as something different, and you can build on that, because the next time you tell it, you may tell their version of it. You may swap the two around a little bit.
Free food.
Without sounding, I don't know what way to put this, right? Sounding sort of soft or wimpish about it. This is a lovely job.
Yeah.
I'm paid to sit and talk to people. My role basically is to come in the morning, light that fire, and sit here and wait for people to come and talk to me. A couple of years ago I was doing one Saturday. Summer Saturday, I'd been working away. I went home and I was sitting in the garden having a beer and I started counting. And I spoke to people from 13 different countries in the one afternoon. And you don't get that anywhere else. So you don't. And, it's like you'd said earlier, it's meeting people. And everyone has a story to tell you. People often say to me, how do you become a storyteller? I don't know how to become a storyteller, because everyone has a story to tell. Even children are storytellers. When they tell you something which happened, they elaborate on it. They make it a bit more flowery. Their imagination runs away. So I think, and hopefully, what the museum is trying to do, we're trying to bring back this tradition of people sitting around, having a chat and telling a story. And I'll tell something, they say, oh, that reminds me of my mother told me, or something like that, and it takes it on. But as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't get a better job. Couldn't get a better job in the world than sitting talking to people every day. And you never know who's going to come through the door. I'll just say this as well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's nice to meet people, and that's just the way I feel about it.